Hey everybody, good morning and welcome to Java Chat. This is Coffee with Mike, having my cup of coffee this morning, of course, and I'm here with the lovely Juliette Stapleton, the queen of visibility. Thanks for joining me and coming online and having some fun today. We're gonna get right into it. And I usually start off with a very simple question, which is, per your specialty, what would be the best piece of advice you can give to budding entrepreneurs when it comes to visibility online?
Well, hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm going to go straight to the point. If you want to be visible online, or if you want to grow your business, or if you want to achieve the life of your dreams, one thing that I would personally recommend you doing is take action before you have clarity, before you know anything. Just trust your gut, have the intention that you're going to make it, and then just start taking action. You can tweak things, you can adjust your course. There's nothing like failure, because you can change your direction at any time. But if you start taking action today, something will start happening. A small action every day works so much more than trying to figure things out, or wait for something, some clarity, or some sort of I don't know, a light from the sky comes to you and then you know everything, or you're looking for some magic strategy. Not works. You have to figure out your own strategy, the one that works for you, the one that will work for people that you attract with who you are. So there is no point in waiting, just wasting time. Do something.
That's really interesting. It's very interesting. I have a lot of colleagues in the marketing realm that would contradict that, and yet I've seen at times where they themselves have done exactly that. And actually, that's an admonition in Think and Grow Rich, which we've discussed before, which is being able to take action and not waiting, and trusting in the fact that something will come, that a plan will come together. It is good to have a strategy. It is good to have tactics that back that strategy, but without any kind of execution at all that strategy is worthless anyway. So that's a real good piece of advice. Thank you. For those of you that are listening on Anchor.fm or any of the podcasts, make sure that you share this out. There's going to be some pretty interesting nuggets here. The first time Juliette and I had a conversation, I think we had a run-on conversation for about an hour and a half. And there's a good chance that might happen here. So let's see what happens. Juliette, do me a favor. I was looking through your website, and your origin story really dug into my heart, like big time, to the point that I had to stop a couple times, because it deals with cancer, and it deals with a place that most people would say is super dark, because cancer is a very emotional type of disease that causes some really harsh despair. I know because I've lost my father to it. I know because I lost one of my best friends to brain cancer. It's rough. And when you're going through that place, to have been able to do what you did, I think, for one, it's a point of reference for anybody that's going through anything that's even similar. So if you could just kind of walk us through that. I mean, that was a transformational point for you, wasn't it?
Well, I actually, so there is a story on my website. That is my original story. And of course, it's meant to emotionally connect people who are reading it with me. There is a little bit, yes. Now, guys, if you're listening, I am not a cancer survivor, but my husband is. But I want to tell you something that is not on the website, and give you a little bit of a backstory to my origin story before I talk about my origin story.
Cool.
So the backstory was that in 2011, my life started going downhill. From, I was in kind of an okay job, and the job didn't really work out or something, and then they started advertising my position without telling me. I felt backstabbed, I started, I worked out. So it wasn't that I was bad at my job. It's just that they were advertising for a title of a manager when they kept me at the supervisor level, which is a horrendous title to have. Anyway, so long story short, I felt like I'm falling in this bottomless pit, and there was no end to it. And then on top of that, the bad things, they all happen in cluster. On top of that, my husband's mom was diagnosed with cancer, and it was a pancreatic cancer. It was terminal cancer. We had to go there.
Mom too?
Yes, and we had to be there in the room when she was actually told that it's terminal and it's not going to be ever cured. You know,
Yeah.
it was a very, very tough moment, and especially that one of my husband's cousins just had breast cancer and she survived. And for this old woman, it was so, she was 78. It was very difficult for her to hear this because she wasn't very educated. She didn't know that, you know, there's different types of cancer.
Right.
Some of them are terminal, some of them are not. And she's like, how is my terminal if somebody else just got, you know? So she was real distressed, and we took her to live with us for a while, you know. Then of course she was not able to live, you know, she had to go to the hospice. But that was a hard time because everything was, so I'm losing the job, you know, my mom-in-law is moving into me, and as the woman looking after another woman, and there was a lot of physical care.
Yeah.
I had to take care of that, you know. At the same time, I had to look for jobs. There was no jobs at my caliber. I had to go back waitressing and doing things like that I never thought I'm going to be doing again. And then if you have any sort of, you know, if you're different, and I think I was always a little bit unemployable because at heart I'm an entrepreneur and I have my own direction. It always has the business at heart, so the business owner would see that, but not the management and not people around you.
Sure.
So, you know, I'd be always then outcasted. And I didn't have great time in employment. So I'm going through that, but that's destroying my self-worth. That's destroying how I feel about myself, you know, the value, and it's just making me feel like I'm falling. So that was in 2011, 2012. I started my business because I lost all my income. I had to walk out of that job. And instead of going and signing up or, you know, doing anything, I'm like, no, I'm going to start my own business. My husband looking at me like I have three heads. I said, no, I know a lot about Facebook. I was already blogging. I was a fashion blogger at that stage. You know, I was into dressmaking and crafts, and I did tutorials. And I was, you know, I was always more about promotion. Then even back in the day when I was younger, I was in bands, and with the moment the internet came into my life, I started being more about actually promoting myself than you know, singing or even good enough, you know, I'm gonna above average. So promotion was always there, and I thought, you know, I can do it and I can create a business. And I've created in 2012. I found a few people to help them with their Facebook pages. And so I was working with a lot of local businesses. I live in a very small rural area in Ireland. But if you fast forward a little bit, 2015, my husband's sister got diagnosed with motor neuron disease, and it was progressing really, really fast. Now, we lost her at the end of 2016. And that was the point that before my origin story, which I'm going to go into, started, that was the situation where I watched somebody who throughout her life didn't make any decisions, you know, somebody who just shies away from making decisions, not good at it. So, you know, there's bad marriage, there's like things like that didn't work out. And then this disease, almost like life said, well, you're not making any decisions. Well, I'm going to make a decision for you. And that decision you cannot change, whatever you do. And then, you know, she started losing her abilities, and it was really, really scary. You know, it was really scary. And then we lost her. And for me, it was a turning point. I knew that if I don't make some decisions, drastic decisions, yes, I already had my business. Yes, I was sort of, you know, had something, but I was still an employee to these people I worked with. And I worked for pennies. You know, I'd take anybody on board. I would work with people that I would never, you know, support what they're doing. So for example, I was supporting an e-commerce hunting store where I am such an animal lover. Hunting for me is completely against my nature, yet just for the money. And so it just, again, you know, it's all how you feel about yourself, you know. And I had to change something. So I started thinking about what can I change, and I started thinking that, you know what, this area here, I already work with all the prominent businesses, and it's not really working out for me. There's mentality, there's other things. I have no idea how to prospect. I have no idea how to sell myself. Everybody comes to me through word of mouth. It's a small thing. So and then I don't want to prospect here because it feels like everyone I'm working with are sharing the same traits. So I don't want more of these people in my life. So I said to myself, you know what? I used to be so good at promoting myself before. So why don't I just go and create something like this? So I had this thought, I had this thing inside me. And then by March 2017, I joined some sort of personal development group, and they had a live video challenge. And I did a live video challenge, 7 days. I was like, wow, video is great. Let me challenge myself and do it for another 30 days. And I did the 30 days live video challenge to myself inside that group. But on day 4, my husband was getting a bit sick. We thought it was a flu, just a couple of weeks ago, but he was getting weaker and weaker and weaker. So on day 4 of my challenge, we had to rush him to the doctor because he was getting really bad. And the doctor straight away suspected something terrible. She told me to pack up a big bag and take him to the hospital. And we went to the hospital, and within 24 hours, he was diagnosed with lymphoma cancer, stage 4, and it was extremely aggressive. His organs were too weak to even consider treatment. And that was, we were in relationships for a very long time. He proposed to me on the first date, and our wedding was 3 weeks after this date.
Wow.
So we didn't know that day. So when I came home, I left him at the hospital. Obviously, okay, I drove home. I don't know how I drove home. And next day I woke up and I was saying to myself, what am I to do? And because you don't know anything. It's like, whatever carpet, whatever ground you have is taking under you.
Yeah.
But from under you. But what I had in growing up, and probably it's my natural trait, but I always said, there's 3 days. If anything happens, you have 3 days. First day, you can cry your eyes out, you can feel miserable, this is your day to just dump this negativity into tears, and but the next day you need to stop crying. The next day you need to think, how can we make it better? And the third day you move on. And I dealt with that, all my heartbreaks when I was younger with the boys, and it was always this approach, 3 days approach. So while I was sitting there and crying my eyes out the next day, I just had this feeling that things are going to be okay. And I also said to myself, first of all, this is not my battle. And whatever I do, I cannot win a cancer battle for my husband. This is his journey. This is his battle. And I just have to go with whatever's going to happen. But whatever's going to happen, I'm not going to give any energy to cancer, because I felt like this thing kicked in when I said, how can we make it better? This problem solving thing that I have naturally just kicked in. Yeah. And I also received on that day, I received a couple of signs, that I need to move forward. So that was something that helped me, just a couple of synchronicities. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to continue with this 30, whatever days, it was day 4, so I'm going to continue that. I'm not going to pour my heart out to these people so they feel sorry for me, but what I'm going to show them is how I'm going to deal with this. And so from day 4, I didn't do the live video because I was too distressed, but from day 5, I started talking about how I'm dealing with this. How do you deal with something punches you in the face, and how, what do you do next? And I basically just had that whole thing, and even the office that I built my business from that moment to now. This was the office, this room I'm here now. It needed painting. Painters let me down, and I painted this. It was my way. It was all kind of old and run down. I said, no, I'm gonna fix it. It's like my husband's house, and I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna paint it. I'm gonna make it lovely, and this is going to be a start of it. And then the other thing that was crucial, what I decided to do is I decided to focus on the moment where, not when he recovers, but the moment where cancer will be completely like a bad nightmare we had. Now, it's easy to say it for me, guys, because I haven't got through it. If I was the one suffering, I don't know how I would deal with that, because physical pain and what he had to go through is horrendous. And, he's still 2 years on, and he's still suffering with some, side effects of what it left in his body, because there's so much toxins in his body now. Yeah. I'm not dealing with that. So easier said than done in a way. But for me, I was that rock, and it was the most unusual way how it manifested in me. And a lot of people would judge me, but I didn't care. I didn't care if my husband would judge me. I supported him as much as I could. He was in the hospital 2 hours drive away from us, and I just couldn't physically be there all the time. My daughter was going to school in a different direction. I had to give her a lift there every day. So there was a situation where I had to do something that I put myself first, because I had to look after myself and be strong, but not be strong. You need to ask for help when you're asking for help. You need to take action and do something. And I started my online business, so I started connecting to people. I created a show that I would interview other people as the way to become more visible to more audiences. I was befriending people like crazy. I was talking about what I know about online world and Facebook, and and then in a few months I realized that I actually have a strategy here that's working. you
Nice.
know, between creating content and exposing yourself to others, audiences, and also connecting to people and talking to people and creating real relationships. So I've created this system that now I call Fearless Client Attraction Method. And I pre-sold it as my first course, you know, in 3 months, and basically started making money. You know, and that showed me that, okay, it wasn't a huge amount, and I had no understanding of how sales should be done, you know, what is business, I'm not someone who works to targets in my brain, because that's not the way my brain works, and I'm on my own as well. So things took a little bit longer to figure out, but the action I took every day, and that complete blind faith that, you know, I'm going to create this future for us, it worked. It worked. And, you know, when he got sick, I wrote down my goals for 5 and now I'm looking, they're still on my wall, and now I'm looking at them, and I'm not joking. Everything came true, including things that my daughter finished school. She finished school with the best results in the top 70 in the country. She then entered Trinity College Dublin, which is a very prestigious college, which she's still running on top of class. And I can't believe she's finishing second year now, you know, because we didn't even know she's gonna get there. So these things were on the list. Learning to swim was on the list. I learned to swim last year, first time in 42 years. And, you know, this is something, and the only thing I have to still do is write a book, but I have already started on that. So, and the business, I have my business that is location free. I fired everybody I didn't like working with, and other people aligned. Some people that I didn't like working with, and they aligned, and some of them became my close friends, even people who are with me here. I have clients or students from Chile to Nova Scotia and Singapore, and like Europe, everywhere. And it's kind of a dream. It's hard work, and it's not magic. You know, it wasn't done by magic. It was done by hustle, hard work, connecting to people, spending a lot of time marketing, a lot of time being visible. But it worked.
This is a resounding thing that I hear with most of the interviews, is that a lot of hard work had to go in it, because most of us that are entrepreneurial had to fail forward. You know, everybody gets into that lull, and where they have to go into their learning. Like even for myself, for the last week, I've been working on I have a new partnership with a data company. And we had a light conversation about that. Since then, I probably spent a good 10, 12 hours learning what it is that I've actually gotten myself into. It's way better than I thought it was. I mean, I thought it was good already, which was the reason I made the initial investment. But I mean, you put the time in, like you said, you put the time in, you take the action, you move, and then you end up understanding it a lot more. And when you look at it, when you really understand something and you look at it, you go, wow, now how do I implement that? By implementing it and doing something, just do anything, you know, making a move, like you said, and that makes absolute sense. You still have that show, don't you?
Oh yes, that show. In fact, the very first, it's kind of evolved. You know, I changed the name. It started as Easy Chats, which that's exactly what it was. It was just a little chat I would have with entrepreneurs. But for me, it was also the way of learning, you know, and tapping into somebody's experience in a way, while providing entertainment for my and theirs audience. And I had some great people coming in. And then from 2018, I renamed it to Show Up, Stand Out. And Show Up, Stand Out has celebrated now its first anniversary. Now it's almost half year.
Congratulations. That is awesome.
And it's a weekly show. I run it on my Facebook page. It's on YouTube as well. But it just gives me a chance to talk to people. In fact, it turned into my best-selling tool in a way, because I know a lot of people who come into and become my students and my clients, they watch those interviews, and I get a chance to shine as an expert when I talk to people as well. There's a way, in fact, I even have a training now how to do interviews, how to host interviews, you know, like a boss. So that's exactly
nice.
What I do. And I'm loving it. I think that if I didn't have to work and hustle, and if I don't know, I don't believe in winning the lottery, because that means you're not taking any action, or you think that something's going to happen to you, which I don't believe in. But if I won a lottery tomorrow, I'd still have a show. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of what we do here with Java Chat. I mean, the idea is to basically share the story of entrepreneurs, where they've been, what they're doing, how they got there. And again, to kind of string this resounding theory of it takes time, it takes work. You interviewed Trish, which is a very good friend of mine. Both her and her husband are very good friends. Her run took 3 years. before she finally, I think you just saw it recently, she finally quit her day job 3 years later. Most people look at her kind of success and go, wow, that must have been awesome. You've been discovered, blah, blah, blah. You know, you've been the age of 20, 21. That's a big deal. You've had all of these great things happen. And she does her lives. And she's literally said, guys, this is 3 years later. Don't think this is going to happen tonight, tomorrow, or the next day. Shit, it probably won't even happen this year. That's okay. It's the persistence of work, hard work, that brings you into something like this. And even, and you can probably attest to this as the queen of visibility.
Well, I will be honest.
That's what it's evolved into and what it is now and how much work you've had to put into that. And now you finally made the first year, which again,
but I'm not a millionaire, guys. I don't have a 7-figure business after 2 years. I have a business now that is okay, that I can actually move and live anywhere I want, which I'm doing right now, moving away from Ireland. And I'm going back to Estonia, where I'm from, and that I immigrated from 20 years.
You're moving back to Estonia, but I still hear an Irish accent in there.
Oh, I was going to stay there. I'm going to speak English. English is my first language now. I'm going to be very weird one. I don't belong to Italians, I don't belong to Russians. My first language is Russian, but I'm going to just speak English and pretend with my Juliette Stapleton very English name.
Yes, very English name.
I actually never thought that I'm going to go home. It's not because I'm nostalgic or anything, but it happens to be the place that ticks all the boxes. When we wrote a list of our dream places, then last time when we visited home, we said, hang on a second, it's all here and it's insanely beautiful. So my Instagram account is going to blow up. So it's just something that you have to think about quality of life, and we don't have as much quality of life living where we are than what we want to have. Yeah. So my business, yes, but I agree with that, because if I didn't have my own business with these clients that I mentioned before, people that I might not have been, in love with working with, they were paying my bills, and they've been paying my bills until last year. The last client it was very scary to release, these retainer clients and just rely on the online world, because you have to take responsibility for every penny you make when you're doing it yourself online. That's a huge, scary thing. Now I know if I don't hustle, if I don't write that post, if I don't make that call to action, I am not going to be able to pay for my rent. I mean, I'm not in that situation, but it's, it's that if you take that much responsibility and then you are making some money and you're enjoying it, it's coming in and it's becoming easy because you already created a habit of doing it. You're not sitting there overthinking or resisting to make an offer. That's a big thing with the online entrepreneurs, and things. But if I didn't have that business, I would not be able to build what I've built, because visibility comes before sales. Now, you might be very good naturally at sales. And if you reach out to people, you start conversations, and through, I'm not saying like reach out, cold outreach, marketing outreach, but just genuine conversations, and you will see if there's interest. And if you're very good, you will get those people on calls and you'll get the money much sooner. But if you're not, I don't come from sales background. I had to learn all this through these 2 years, but if you're not like that, yes, it's going to take longer. And yes, you have to have something to, don't be silly. But I blame the gurus for, a lot of false information. I blame the gurus. I had a conversation this morning with a student of mine, and he's just starting, and he was talking about that he needs, and I was saying to him, you need to build your audience. You don't have enough even Facebook friends to even consider any sales right now. You need to build your authority, write content, and expand like crazy. And he was saying, no, but I need first one-on-one clients. And I'm saying one-on-one clients, if somebody wants to hire you one-on-one as a coach, they should be prepared to pay a couple of thousand, for whatever package you're offering, if you're any good or something. That's a kind of standard, right? But why would they pay you that to you if they don't know who you are? You don't have anything to your name, no authority. Of course, it's so hard, but I blame people like Frank Kern, who I like personally. I like watching his videos and all that. But when he releases a book and he says, go after the lowest hanging fruit, which is one-on-one coaching, which is a lot of bollocks, pardon my Irish, because, nobody knows.
Better than what you would have said it if you were here in the US. So bollocks is fine.
Oh, no, that's okay. I can do better than that. But, now it'll do. but that's what I'm saying. And I feel so angry kind of, because I know Frank Kern didn't start as a coach. And a lot of time people who...
No, he was a surfer boy that got into internet marketing and actually learned from
That's
Jeff
what I'm
Walker.
saying, selling like that, you know. So in a way, he's not qualified to give that kind of advice because he didn't start like as a coach himself, you know. And this is something that, and I'm saying, I do not dislike Frank. I love him. I love watching his videos and all that. There's personality.
He knows marketing. Let me tell you, he understands that.
Oh. Yeah, but just that one little advice, and you know, then you download his book, and in the book it says, don't worry about it, you know, go for one-on-one coaching. Well, it's more about don't follow your services that he's talking about, I'd say, but people misunderstand this, and they think that, you know, they will sell these coaching packages. Well, I lost probably 4 months last year, just sort of hooking on that. Then a person that I was mentoring me at the moment also said to me, you know what, just forget about your online trainings and whatever you have in mind, you know, just go for one-on-one coaching. And you know how many clients I got one-on-one for 2 months of me positioning myself as a coach? 2.
Yeah.
I got 2 clients. Yes, it was a great day. I made $20,000 in one day, but then I didn't make anything. I didn't get more clients.
Yeah.
And so it's hard, you know, and then $20, you know, $20,000, I have to work for a year for that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that I just made this and that's how my everyday goes. Right. So let's be honest, what actually happens when people throw these numbers and when, you know, out there. And so there's a lot of discourse, and it has to be, we have to blame the gurus for.
There are quite a few. It's interesting because one of the things that I do, especially nowadays, is I like cruising the news feeds on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram. I like looking for the ads to see what's being put out and see who's putting what out. And I laugh a lot only because that I do. Now that I have the data access that I do have, there's a lot of epiphanies I had while learning all this stuff as to what really happens with data. As a matter of fact, and this is actually mentioned by, I can't remember who I saw it, but they mentioned that Facebook alone has over 400,000 data points on each user.
Yeah.
400,000. And they only give you access to a very, very, very small percentage. And you don't even really get to resolve who that person is. You have to keep renting the data from them. And that's how they make their money. And yet everybody else goes out there, here's the greatest strategy to make your cost of acquisition go down. Here's the greatest strategy to acquire more clients. Here's the best way to, and I'm looking at them all going, not a single one of you can do what I can do. And it's because I know how to get that identity. And I also know how to get out into the market before you get to them. So when you're talking to people, you're spraying and praying. It's an audience. Whereas I can target an individual person. There's a big difference. So you're right. When gurus go out there and they start advertising all this stuff, you can make a 7-figure business by doing this. You can do that, but you got to pay them $2,500 to start. I'm like, I can use $500 and do the same thing that you're doing and get to the people before you ever do. But I'm not going to go out and sell that as a course because that would be foolhardy. First off, I don't have enough experience in it. I'm still learning. And at the same time, I have clients that I need to service. You know, if somebody wants to become a guru, please, by all means, go ahead. That's fine. If that's what you're going to do, please prove some real results. Please show some real results, create some real results. But like, if you're an entrepreneur and you're just hitting the ground, don't go looking to the gurus to give you the savior. It's not going to work that way. And even then, the success stories, every one of them has a disclaimer. These results are not typical. Why? Because they probably invested more money than you ever will. And if you don't have that budget or you don't have a budget, guess what you're going to be doing? You're going to be grinding. Not that that's bad. That's part of it. Like you just said, you mentioned a couple of interesting things too. When it comes to habit, you created a consistent habit of doing and making things happen, whether that was creating content or getting out there on your easy chat or now show up, stand out. I'll remember that. That's why you see me writing all the time, is because I'm taking notes, and that's like, oh, that's another point we got to go over. When did you realize that it became a habit and became comfortable with the habit itself of being consistent and persistent?
Well, I will be very, very honest with you. it's not a comfortable habit. It's like if you don't like exercising and you need to go and exercise to lose weight or to be in shape, it's always painful and you're always dealing with resistances, because being lazy is easier.
Oh,
And
sure.
for me, it's easier to be lazy. For me, it's easier not to work out, because nobody sees me from shoulders down, and they don't know what's happening there for the last 2 years while I'm sitting down all the time.
That's why it stops right here, dear.
That's right. It's like this is I need to do some sort of like a meme or something where I have a pretty top, and then there's like a monster that fills in the floor here, because this is the same thing with what's happening with the habits and with consistency. You know what I said before? What the biggest difference that I basically made to myself, because I decided to fire people I didn't want in my life, even though they were 80% of my recurring income. It was scary, but I said to myself, I need to do this because I need to be responsible for what's happening in my life. And this responsibility, this thought of, no, I am responsible. That's what makes me, I created a habit. So yes, of course I have a habit of doing things, but it's not easy. I'm dealing with resistances as well. If I took a week off doing live videos, it's going to be the same resistances as those people who never did live videos and they're afraid. But I just know that, there is light on the end of the tunnel. So I'll just go and maybe I'll record 1 or 2 videos before I get comfortable again. And then I go live, so the habit, it's more even not the habit, but it's just the strategy of pushing through resistances, because you are responsible for you. I don't believe that things happen to us. I do not believe that we have to work hard and everything is on our shoulders. I believe we co-create life we create what our reality, if we have an intention that something is going to happen, we create, but creating means you have to do something. It doesn't mean that things will align. So it's not on your shoulders, it's not like, oh my God, I work hard, the universe weight is on my shoulders. No, the universe is there to support you, right? But you need to take action. And when you start taking action and you have the intention, everything starts aligning. And you just need to be, don't be afraid. Sometimes some alignments are more drastic than others, just navigate through it, and then eventually you'll go somewhere else. What I don't believe, and I see it very clearly, they say success is a journey. I don't believe that there is an end point to this. And this is when you get your head around it, then you understand that celebrating small wins, small little things. I just wrote a post before I came to this interview, and then I took a selfie, and the selfie was half decent and the post was good. And I might make some sales from just that post, because that happens to me. And that's a win. I'm going to celebrate this. I feel good about it. It's all about feeling good about small little steps you take. But when you look back, you are going to get somewhere. It's slower in the beginning, so it's harder when you start. But the more you do it, the faster you move. It's never going to be the end point when you just made it, unless you win a lottery.
You actually just reminded me of a meme that speaks very well to what you just described. And it deals with childhood, moving into adolescence, moving into adulthood, but it serves the same purpose with what you just said. Let me describe it. It shows a very young child walking along a path, and it's kind of going up over a little rise, little knoll, grassy little knoll, right? And child gets to the top. Well, that was easy. I wonder what's next. And the next thing it shows adolescence. It's a rocky climb, and the rocks look kind of loose. I mean, it shows it. And then behind that's adulthood, and there's this huge volcano that's dripping with lava on the back end. And the child looks up and goes, oh boy. And I think what most people do is they overwhelm themselves rather than realizing, that journey, and even at the end of adulthood, if you were to look at it that way, that's just a volcano. What's behind that? What's beyond that? There's flatlands, there's hilly lands, there's mountainous lands. There's another mountain to climb after each, like you said, little win that you hit. And some of them you're not meant to climb, but I think people get it twisted up. I know a few people that talk about the journey, and they never talk about an end. They talk about the journey. And the journey towards success, there is no end. There never is an end. I mean, the truth of the matter is the end is when we're in the ground. That's the end.
Well,
even
then, that's not the end.
That's the end of this. But it's not necessarily the end of us as an energetic being. There's more to it.
I do not believe that. No.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like if you're focused so much on the end, you're missing the point. If you're focused on the little wins and the goals and the bigger wins that it builds up to, great. You'll never slow down. You'll never, never quit.
What you said is important, because you can either look at the end, pretend that there is an end somewhere and get overwhelmed how much you have to do towards it, or you can keep going and then get disheartened that you are not reaching the end.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of people miss their purpose, is they think that there's an end. The whole thing about there's an end in sight. Yeah, when people say, well, I see there's the end is in sight, and I'm like, okay, and what's behind that? What do you mean? I'm like, really? That's all you're thinking about? Is that end? You don't, well, I haven't gotten there yet. Okay, so I don't think you're understanding the point. That is not the end. Oh, I know there's more to it. Okay, good. Then don't focus on that as the stop. Because if you do, when you get there, just like you said, you're going to end up looking back at it and going, oh, what do I do now? And the whole overwhelm thing cycle starts all over again. It's what Tony Robbins calls the crazy eights. You end up going into this vicious circle of, it's great, it's horrible, it's great, it's horrible, it's great, it's horrible. Right here, right in the middle is where you belong. Whether it's great or horrible is irrelevant. It's, I'm moving, and I'm going to continue moving, and I'm going to continue moving until
Can I tell you a story, or
yes, yeah. Go ahead. That's what we do here.
When I was 3 years old, I saw a Russian movie, D'Artagnan and Three Musketeers, and D'Artagnan was gorgeous, and they sang in the movie. So he could sing, he had, and I just said, I am marrying D'Artagnan. I was so delighted. His girlfriend got poisoned and he was available. I'm going to my mom would go to say, take me somewhere. I don't know, she'd have to go to dentist or something. And then she hears everybody laughing in the waiting room because I'm walking up and down and telling them the story of me going to Paris and marrying D'Artagnan and the whole thing. So that was when I was 3. A little bit later on in life, I grew up in Soviet Union, right? So, we were pioneers and we were the whole shebang. I'm so glad that I went through that period in my life. And I remember once we had this meeting, our pioneer meeting in the class. Everybody was a pioneer. You didn't have a choice. Right. But what are you going to do when you grow up? And some people would say, I'll be a diplomat. We were in the special English class. Learning English. Sure. So I'll be diplomat, I'll be this, I'll be that. And I said, well, I'm going to marry a foreigner and I'm going to move out. I honestly said that. I was the president. I was the leader of the pioneer organization class. And I'm coming up with that stuff. I knew I'm going to marry a foreigner. It wasn't D'Artagnan at that stage. I was a bit older and I knew that it was a movie. I saw that actor in another movie and I was so heartbroken. But anyway, so that was, then I started singing. I was singing from a very early age, and then I went in bands, and then I, for some reasons, I started saying, well, I'm going to marry a music producer. So then I have a foreigner. And you know what? I never had this story about the knight on a white horse coming into me in my dungeon, like Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
My story was, I am going to go there from age of 3. That's what happened. I had this dream. My intent was to meet my other half. In order to meet my other half, I had to get married in Estonia to someone else. Sure. I had to somehow miraculously get invited to do a festival in Denmark, and the festival people paid us to go to London. And that was something that was just too expensive at that stage, the economical differences and everything. And that just happened within like 2 months. And I wrapped up my life. And just the day before my birthday, I left. And on my birthday, I was in London, and I looked at the 20 years of my life, 20 years anniversary this year. And then I got pregnant, and I couldn't stay in London because there wouldn't be anything. And I said, I need to do something. I don't want to go home. And they said, you come to Ireland and you can get residency if you have a baby on their territory, because they're very old school. They have these laws. I said, sure, let's take a bus. 8 months pregnant, took a bus, came to Dublin, didn't know anybody. Don't know what happened, but I'm here.
It all worked out is basically what you're saying.
So all that had to happen. A couple of years later, I met my other half. Here we are together still, and that is my husband, whose story is in my origin story on my website. But this is the dream that came true. It came true exactly how I wanted it to come true. I married a music producer who is a foreigner to me, so English. I never speak Russian. I don't speak English to my daughter even, so I completely transformed my life and everything aligned. There were scary moments, there were crazy moments, there was like loads of moments, but that dream kind of came true. So what happened later, we got married much later, but we got together.
Sure.
What happened later is that I didn't have a dream. So I didn't have that end. That was the life after the end, happily ever after.
Right.
So during the happily ever after, all that shite that I spoke about earlier happened. All the, losing myself and working with wrong people and not really valuing myself, not having a dream. And what happened with cancer, what happened in my life is that I've created a new dream. I've created a dream, being independent, of being an entrepreneur, of being responsible for my life, of having a life of my dreams, which I'm working towards now. And no, I don't have the end, because I now know consciously, seeing how my dreams came true. First of all, I know I can manifest my dreams, and everybody can, it's perseverance. But I also know that I don't want to have a dream that can't evolve and that I can't create another dream as this dream is coming true. I can just adjust and maybe have another dream and then another dream. So there's never this end point. And after that, you're like, oh, what am I to do now? Again. And this is why the success is a journey. Again. And now I see it so clearly. Like experienced manifester of dreams.
And again, that speaks very clearly to the fact that you just mentioned dreams evolving. Every year in for corporate business, they always look at their goals and what do their goals need to evolve into, because there is no end to a business unless there's no profit. So when you look at it from a personal standpoint, it's the same story. It's not about profit. It's about, where's your life going? What are you going to do next? What do you want to do next? Where is that vision going to become something even bigger, even better, even more beautiful? What is it that's going to be past that endpoint? You hit it in a rock wall style, which most people do, and you were able to realize that the rock wall is only so wide. All you had to do was walk around it and go see what was on the other side. Most people never get there, because they get right to this little 2-inch spot on the rock that's right in front of them and go, I'm stuck.
Yeah. That's it.
They miss it. And because of that, they end up not persevering. They end up not being persistent. They end up not creating the habits, and they get stuck in a place that they don't really belong. Humankind, in my opinion, is probably one of the most amazing beings, because we have this power of creation, which no other being on this planet has. And I'm not talking about procreation. I'm talking about the ability to create things. We've built stuff that honestly we shouldn't be able to build. Pyramids, anybody? We've done things that we shouldn't have been able to do. We've sent men to the moon. We've sent people to outer space. We've sent people to the bottom of the ocean now, and done it smartly. I mean, we've been able to calculate things that years ago mankind looked at and went, that doesn't exist. Actually, yes, it does. And even now, even those calculations in science are being challenged, because they're finding new stuff again. And it's like, but it's because these people, and although they're using what we like to call the synthetic imagination, which is basically experience, to create theorems and new ideas, there are things being found where a scientist will look at it and go, that's nowhere in our experience. We've never seen this before. And then they all go back to the drawing board. They start writing all over if people, I think just in general, if people would spend more time taking their now dream and going, well, where else could this go? It doesn't have to take hours a day. Just sit for a couple minutes. You'd be surprised what your creative imagination actually comes up with. Over half of the people were raised to think, nah, that couldn't happen. Actually, yeah, it can. You're a living testimony of it. A lot of the people that I interview are living testimonies of that. If you didn't get a chance to listen to Mark Harris's interview that we did last time, amazing one. Just like this one, by the way. Thank you. And actually, we're like literally at the end. But he talks about that definite aim and purpose in life and how to get focused. And you talk about focus and you talk about habit. And it's a resounding theme that I keep hearing over and over. And I think if most people, anybody that's listening to this or watching this, would actually take the time to slow the hell down, seriously, slow the hell down, and take a look at what it is you're aiming for. Yeah, that's great. You got a goal. That's cool. You have a why. Awesome. Got to have that. Your dreams, wonderful. But you need to slow it down once in a while and actually take a look at it and go, okay, so that's the pseudo end point. What's after that? what else is there? I mean, once my son grows up and hits 18, which is this year, although he's with me for one more year because of school, once he hits 18, where's he going to go? You know, what do I do next? Because once he flies the coop, it's me. What do I do with myself after that? A lot of my life has been lived for him and for my mother, which, you know, puts certain challenges in place. But once he goes, what do I do with mom? You know, do I keep her? Do I get her into an active living community where she can be happy meeting other people her age and being active? I don't want to put her in a home. And then what do I do? Where does my focus go after that? Do I go back to music? Because I can still play music and sing. Not as good as I used to, but I can still do that. I could still go back to production and other things. I can go back to, you know, I'm already doing data. I mean, and mind you, data is very detailed. By the way, I just motioned, not me, silently.
You're basically like me.
Yeah, well, I'm very much 20,000 foot. I want to thank you very much for taking the time. Our chats usually end up just like this. They run for a while, and I love them. Happy to do these again anytime you want. Whether interview or not, I'm just happy to connect with you. You're like my new bestie kind of thing.
Very good.
And I want to thank you for sharing your story. I want to thank you for sharing your insights. Where can somebody find you to learn that story, to understand how you can help them more? And mind you guys, for anybody watching this or listening to this, if you need to understand how to get yourself more visible online, this is who you want to talk to. So where do they find you?
Well, very simple. 2 places you can check out. If you're on Facebook, and I am on Facebook, Facebook is my thing. Yes,
it is.
Like we were just talking about changes.
Yes.
It's changing, but we're evolving with it. So look me up, Juliette Stapleton. You can send me a friend request now. I'm almost at my limit now, but you can follow me, and you can see, you can check out my page, Juliette Stapleton, the Queen of Visibility. That's what they say. Or you can just go to juliettestapleton.com and check out everything in one concise space all together, and see if you are looking to get more visible, to position yourself as authority. Yeah, see if you resonate with me and what I say, then we might be a good fit together. But I always only work with people who are the greatest fit possible. It feels great.
Of course, it should be that way.
How, if you feel like this about me, give me a shout. And if not, just stick around, because there's a lot of fun going on.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward. I want to go dig into some of those shows. I was kind of watching one of them recently, and I like the format, so I'll have to go watch some more. All right, guys, that's it. This is Java Chat. It's Coffee with Mike. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm again here with Juliette Stapleton, the Queen of Visibility. Make sure that you check her out online, juliettestapleton.com. If you guys got any questions, you know where I'm at. You're welcome to reach out anytime. Send me a call. Send me a message. Happy to discuss more with you what it is that we've been talking about. Whatever you do, keep your head up, keep moving forward. You know I love you guys. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk soon. Ciao for now.